If we want to salvage what's left of this country and maybe create a better future for our kids, we have to talk about this problem. And you can't talk about this problem without talking about who's inflicting these problems. It's blacks. Conservatives talking about everything except for what it's really about. It's black criminality.
Is it, though? Is it black criminality? In 2018, white people died. If you care about white people dying, let's find out how they died. 22,000 car crashes, 26,000 suicides, 40,000 drug overdoses, 153,000 heart disease. In total, all the white people who died, about 1.7 million white people die a year. How many murders were there in 2016? 7,000. Total, not white people dying, total. How many of those murders were whites being murdered by blacks? It was 533. Out of the total number of white people dying, that is 0.03%. Not 1%, not a tenth of 1%, but 0.03%. So when we look at those bigger causes, we talked about overdoses. Who pushes alcohol? Who promotes alcohol? Who pushes and promotes drug culture? Why is the suicide rate of white men going up? Why is it the highest, and why is it going up? Who promotes the food pyramid? Who promotes the consumption of vegetable oils, canola oil? Who promotes sugary drinks? Who promotes diabetes? Who promotes feminism? You know, why can't people have healthy relationships? Why are people in such a bad state? Who promotes no-fault divorce? Where does that come from? Who promotes casual sex? Who promotes all these things in movies, music, and media? I guess if you really want to stretch it and still try to blame black people, you can say it's that gangster rap. You could say, oh, this comes from the gangster rap. Who creates gangster rap? Has to be blacks. There's a very interesting video I'd encourage you to go watch about Bobby Shmurda. Weird name. But Bobby Shmurda, I started noticing him because there are a lot of black rappers like Drake. And Drake really doesn't talk a lot about murdering people. He's not a hardcore gangster. He'll talk about some casual sex, some casual drug use, but he's not the biggest guy into like the gangbang murder type things. So there is a certain contingent of people who enjoy music who say that people like Drake, mainstream rappers, are not hardcore enough. They're not real gangsters. You need someone like Bobby Shmurda. Bobby Shmurda is real hardcore gangster because he's in jail. He's in jail for, gang-related activities, violent drug offenses, and he's just like a real hardcore guy. And I'd really encourage you, if you've been sucked into that Hollywood myth, that music industry myth, that there exists hardcore people like Bobby Shmurda and they're in charge and they're running the show, and we live in a black supremacist country, look at his audition tape, because the reason we know Bobby Shmurda's name is because he's promoted by record labels. He's got a record deal. And he had to audition for that. And when he goes into audition, he's not the only black guy in the room. But you look at the white people in the room, and I'm looking at white guys with suspenders. I'm looking at cat ladies. And they're bobbing their heads and saying, oh, this is going to be great. He looks really authentic. He's got that street vibe to him. These are the people who promote Bobby Shmurda. These are the people who control Bobby Shmurda. He's up there. He's doing his little dance moves. He's doing his rapping. It's very cute. They're in control. He's a puppet. He's a tool. If you listen to Bobby Shmurda, and look, he's a talented musician. I think people who do well in rap are genuinely musically talented. They've got good rhythm. They've got good beats. You can try to rap yourself, and you're not going to be as good because they have talent. They have a verbal, cognitive ability. I won't knock that, but what I'll say is he's a tool. Maybe you enjoy the music. He's a tool. BLM is a tool. Conservatives understand arguments about the Second Amendment as disingenuous. When a liberal says, hey, someone just got shot with a gun, we should ban all guns. Conservatives understand that the true problem here is not the gun. The gun is just a tool. The true problem is the one who pulled the trigger. BLM is just a tool. The real problem are those who pulled the trigger. Who promoted BLM? Who created this massive social signaling complex, this religion of racial resentment, where to be a good person, a better person, a pure person, you have to go out in the streets and destroy property because you have to show how much you really care, how much you're angry. You're a true revolutionary. You want to bring down the system, right? Of white supremacy. So you're going to go out in the streets. You're going to smash up buildings. You're going to punch racists. You're going to beat them into the ground. Maybe even kill them. Who knows? Get some revenge there. Who created that? Was it black people? And I've done the video before. I've done this video before, and the response I got was, you're creating a straw man. You're lying. This isn't happening. No one's making these arguments. You're arguing against thin air. You're arguing against your imagination. It doesn't exist. And it's so disingenuous. It's so disingenuous. The deception that happens when I point out these arguments, and the deflection is, oh well, no one makes those arguments. There's a tragedy that's recently happened. A little 5-year-old boy was shot and killed. And it's a tragedy no matter what happened. I wasn't there, I don't know what happened. But the way it was initially reported was that a little 5-year-old boy rode his bike into a yard and he was shot execution style because I guess a black dude just hated him because he was white. Now, we've already said that 533 out of 1.7 million whites died due to black on white crime. But as details are coming out about this, what are we learning? What can we see? Look at the interviews of the family. What do you see? You see pretty poor white people. You see white people with their teeth falling out, especially the dad. He's in poor physical condition. He looks older than he actually is. He's a drug addict. And drug addiction is something that's been inflicted upon Americans. It's not necessary. Drug addiction is not a fact of life. It's not just, oh, well, you know, it's just part of human species. It's like death, taxes, and drug addiction. No, this is a man-made epidemic. This is something that's been created by the government, by intelligence agencies, by corporations. This is something that's been inflicted upon people. So he's a victim. And what happened on that day? The little boy is shot. What happened? It sounds like this guy had at some point gotten together with the other guy, the white dad, the black guy. They get together for drug-related activities. Maybe one of them selling drugs. Maybe they're using drugs together. All the interviews with the family, they say, oh, we grew up around this black guy. We were friends with him. We don't know what happened. How could he just murder a little boy like that? Well, it sounds like drugs were involved. It sounds like there was some drug-related conflict. Maybe someone owed somebody money. Maybe they were just high. Maybe they just started getting in a fight. Maybe it was over women. But you've got two drug addicts. The black guy pulls out a gun. A shot is fired. It's starting to sound like a very different story than black people are destroying white America and they're killing all the white people and it's black supremacy, and if we don't do something about BLM, we have to fight them. We have to give the cops whatever they want. If they want tanks on the street, let's give it to them. If they want unlimited surveillance, let's give it to them. You know, if they start beating people black and blue, that's fine. Let's give the police unlimited power, unlimited authority. Because we hate BLM so much, we just want to see them suffer. So, all power to the police. Maybe something will come out of that, but it's a very different story Possibly. I mean, again, I wasn't there. I don't know. The facts are coming out slowly, surely, but it's a tragedy either way. It's a tragedy if it was some kind of cold-blooded execution. It's a tragedy if it was a stray bullet that hit a kid that missed his father because the father thought it was a good idea to have the kid in an environment with, drug addiction. And as I say that, I'm thinking he wasn't even thinking it was a good environment. He wasn't thinking at all. He had a drug-addled mind. He's living in a terrible situation. He was probably brought up in a terrible situation, and he's just doing the only thing he knows how to do, which is to live a terrible life, and there's terrible consequences, and now it's in the news, and everyone's hearing about it, and everyone's trying to use it. Leftists, liberals, however you want to label them, people who hate guns and the Second Amendment are saying, look, this is yet another case of why we need to ban all guns everywhere as the solution to life's problems. And then you've got, again, understanding there are 7,000 homicides a year. Not all of them are with guns, out of millions of people who die every year. And then you've got people who are saying, this is proof that blacks are the problem with America. We have to talk about these blacks. It sounds like a distraction. It sounds like a reactionary position. It sounds like somebody told you the lie that 2 + 2 = 5, and you came back and said, well, you're a liar, therefore it must be -5. When in fact, neither of those answers are correct. You're not going to get truth simply by inverting a lie. What would be a good what would be a good metaphor here? If a teacher comes and I've given the example before of the stolen score. If a teacher got an A on the test, and the teacher says, I'm going to take 40 points off your test and give those 40 points to some kid who failed. And they say, why'd you do that? And they say, well, the kid held me at gunpoint. He's part of, the F grades matter group or something. And he forced me at gunpoint to give him the grades. And so then the kid with the A starts beating up the kid with the F, and they're fighting back and forth, and the kid with the F is saying that the kid with the A is the racist oppressor, and the kid with the A is saying, this kid with the F is destroying America, he's a rioter, he's a looter. And they're going back, and meanwhile the teacher's just cackling, because the teacher has all the power. The teacher made the decision. Kid with the F didn't orchestrate the situation. The kid with the F is happy to get the points on the test. He's not going to refuse free points. And he's going to believe the teacher when the teacher says, yeah, the kid with the A, he stole his points. He cheated off your test. I mean, the kid with the F is being manipulated. And the kid with the A, when he starts fighting the kid with the F, he's not solving the problem. He's not making his life better. He's not improving anything. So you've got these two people are fighting. And it doesn't mean that they should be perfect friends, by the way. Here's the other wonderful argument I get. Oh, so if you don't think we should constantly talk about 1350, black on white crime, black overrepresentation in this, if you don't think we should constantly talk about that, if you don't think that we should, take on a position simply because it's offensive, simply because it upsets liberals, simply because it upsets the mainstream, simply because it's going to get us fired from our jobs and lose our friends and family and so on and so forth. If you don't think we should take positions on because of that, then you must believe the kid with the A and the kid with the F are going to get along together swimmingly. They're going to be best of friends. That if you don't believe that we shouldn't constantly blame black people for all the problems in America, if you believe we shouldn't just be reactionaries who respond to, Black Lives Matter with, I hate black lives, if you don't believe that to be true, then that must mean you think the two groups are completely, 100% lovey-dovey, match made in heaven, no differences whatsoever. They're just two peas in a pod. It's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there are real problems. Alcoholism, overdose, obesity, health, the destruction of relationships, the destruction of friendships, sexuality, movies, music, media. All these things are real problems. 7,000 homicides a year is not the core or the crux or the spirit or the center of these problems. And 533 black on white homicides a year is not the root of the problem. And if you're talking about that as if it is, you're buying in and you're feeding into the mainstream media's narrative with Black Lives Matter. They want people to fight a race war. They want people to be constantly thinking about how cops are shooting millions of black people, but blacks are killing millions of white children. They want you to focus on that on both sides. They want the average black person to hate whites, and they want the average white person to hate blacks, and they want to create that tension and that dynamic, and then they want to create a whole bunch of people who are, buying into it on one side or the other. You have the third contingent, who are probably much larger, of whites who hate the poor whites, the uneducated whites, the backwards whites, the whites who don't signal hard enough. But this is the topic they want you to focus on. Is 2 plus 2 equal to 5? Is it negative 5? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? They're giving you all kinds of things to focus on and to pay attention to and to get angry about and upset about. And it is upsetting. Tragedy is upsetting. When you see a video, imagine for a moment, being black, if you're not black, imagine you see a video, no context, you don't know what's going on, but you see a dude and he's in pain and he's shouting out and it looks like there's a knee on the neck. That's upsetting. And you hear stories of he was out for a jog and he got shot by racists. That's upsetting. If you believe the media, if you trust the media, if you think it's true, that's legitimately upsetting, because they make it seem like it's hundreds of people getting killed a day out here. And if you really believe that, then you're going to focus on that and make it your life's mission, because you think that's the problem in America. So now I need to go on a street march, and maybe I'm so angry and I'm so tired and I'm so fed up, I throw a rock at a window. Or I loot, because what does it even matter anymore? Is that the problem in America? Is that the root of the problem? Who started it all? And the reaction of, well, now we need to talk about black crime, black and white crime, the color of crime. What's it all about? Oh, it's windows are being broken. I don't care about windows. I don't care. You can break windows all day long. What's important is broken people. Breaking a window doesn't break a person. Looting a Walmart or a Target or Gucci store is not going to cause the collapse of America. Big corporations having property stolen, that's like a blip in their profits. They don't care. That's not, it's so superficial. It's so impotent, these riots. They're so fake. This is corporations saying, we're going to create a massive crisis to further monopolize power, to give an excuse to further increase the police state. What does abolish the police mean? It means more power to the CIA. That's all that means. That just means we don't like the fact that there are local police with local power responsible to local people. We don't like that. We want to centralize power. We want power in the CIA. That's pretty much all it means. So you just got people chasing in tails here. And I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it because I think people are destroying their lives on both sides. I think if you go out and you get stopped by the police and you resist arrest because you think you're a hero or a martyr or something like that, you can destroy your life over that. I think if you go out looting and rioting, maybe rooting too. If you go out and you do that because you think that's the righteous thing to do, you could be potentially destroying your life. There could be consequences for that. Not for the majority of people, there are no consequences whatsoever because it's state mandated. But there can be consequences. I don't want people to go down that path. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's good for anybody. But the response and the reaction of, I'm going to be as racist as possible. I'm going to hate black people. I'm going to blame them for everything. 1350, black crime, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my friends and family. I'm going to alienate people around me. I'm going to join a racist cult of hyper online, antisocial people, anonymous people who don't care about me, but who talk about how we're all race warriors fighting a race war and how civil war is about to break out. Guys, there has never been a least likely time for civil war in America. Real civil war. What we're getting right now is a pantomime. What we're getting right now is a Hollywood stage performance. It's an orchestra. It's coordinated. It's an opera. It's a drama. It's a soap opera with these riots. They are totally controlled. Totally controlled. Totally manufactured. There is no real independent spirit in them. They are totally top-down controlled by the people who run the government. If they wanted to stop them tomorrow, they could. If they wanted to stop them on day one, if Mayor Frey wanted to stop them in Minneapolis, he could have stopped them. He didn't stop them. He encouraged them. He inflamed them. He incentivized them, and he promoted them in coordination with every other power in the government. Maybe you can say except Trump, but Trump is basically completely alone, isolated, and if he has any desire to stop them, he's impotent. So these riots are totally controlled. They don't represent a threat to the power structure, and the response to them is also completely impotent. If you have black people rioting and looting, and that is no threat to the power, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's like, what is that, a 1% loss for Walmart's profit? They got it all back in the stock market, which is a form of money laundering at this point. The stocks go down, the average dude loses money. The rich people, the corporations, they're gaining. They're gaining. Billionaires, their wealth's increased by 15%. So if you empower the police or you get out there and you have some kind of counter reaction, oh, these people are I keep saying rooting. You keep looting and rioting, so you're the problem. We're going to focus on you. We're going to publish crime statistics. We're going to keep talking about this. We're going to get really angry. And someday we believe that war is going to break out. We're prepared. We've got our cans of food. We've got our water. We've got our ammunition. We've got all that. We're just waiting. We're just waiting for the day of retribution, right? If you think that's going to make your life better or the life of those you care about better, you're wrong. You're wrong on both sides. Both sides are wrong. It doesn't mean some kind of middle position is right. It doesn't mean like, well, we should be slightly racist against black people, but also we should slightly hate white people as well. We should be negative toward both of them. We should, yes, all cops, are evil. We should abolish the police, but give all power to the CIA. But also like hate Trump supporters and such. I mean, but that is kind of the establishment position. Once you realize they hate you both, like you're disposable. Both groups are disposable for the billionaire class. And both groups are like, yeah, we really don't care what happens to the average person. We don't really care if you're all drug addicts. In fact, that's what we want. In fact, that's what we've designed. We don't really care if your lives are miserable. We don't really care if you kill yourselves. We don't really care. We want you to hate each other, not try to build up anything positive, not try to be constructive. We want you playing our game. We want you playing our little mind game of back and forth. It doesn't have to be like that. People can be different. People can have their own way of life, their own walk of life. I don't want to force people to be together who don't want to be together. But there's a difference between that and saying, this is the problem. Identifying problems apparently is not as easy as it seems. We've talked about this before, but it is once again in the news. And it will continue to be in the news. It will continue to be in the news. And people will continue to play into it. I wish I could write like a science fiction story to illustrate this principle of, if Charles Carroll has talked about this in terms of like a prison riot or something, or, it's like two groups of slaves fighting each other. Like the Spartans have the Helots, but imagine there's two different kinds of Helots, the Helots and the Zealots, and they're fighting each other. The Spartans have told them, yes, the Helots are oppressing the Zealots, and the Zealots are saying these Helots are... Helot and Zealot crime is out of control. The 533, we have to focus all our energy and power on that. There are consequences to where you pay attention. There are consequences to your hatred. We have limited care and energy and effort in life. We don't have an unlimited supply. You can't focus on everything at one time. You can't do that. You can't get worked up about everything. And so the choices that we make and our rhetoric and the way we talk about things, the way we treat people, the way we treat situations, there's an opportunity cost. There's an opportunity cost when we attack black people. Who are we not attacking when we attack black people? There's an opportunity cost there. And it is serious. It's not a game. It's not just fun. It's not just, oh, we're on Twitter and we're anonymous and we're saying edgy things and we're pumping each other up and we're creating this fake online family of people who don't even know each other, let alone care about each other. They care about a parasocial relationship. These are mutual parasociality now, where you've got two people who don't know each other, who have formed connections with an idea of a person that doesn't exist, a person who is an anonymous avatar on Twitter. That's what we've got, and people are pouring their heart and soul into that, and I understand that and I think we can all understand that to an extent, at least, being on the internet, understanding what the internet does, understanding how it takes up our time and energy and our focus. And what things could we accomplish it's not a question of intelligence. You don't have to be very intelligent to make a huge impact in the world. You just have to be focused. If you're focused on the wrong things, I don't care how intelligent you are. If you're solving Sudoku problems or chess problems or whatever, you could be the biggest genius and your life amounts to nothing. If you're playing games, and this is how people are treating it, as a game. If you focus on the things that are important in life, even if you're not smart, even if you're not talented, even if you're pretty average and mediocre, but if you really focus on the things that are important, you can have an incredible impact in terms of improving your own life and improving the lives of those you care about and those who are around you. That's the message.